Hello to everyone and welcome to Garage Sale, our new online auctions platform specialized in home items. Let's start by taking a tour through the site and checking how each requirement in the coursework brief is met. So to begin with, requirement 1. Users can register with the system and create accounts. Users have roles of sellers and buyers with different privileges. So for this, let's try and sign up a new user to our platform. We will fill in the personal and other details for the new user, and we will say that this new user will be a buyer. Once we are finished, this new user will get a welcome email database. We can now log in as the newly created user. Because this user is a buyer, he only has these options in the header: home, my bids, and search. Now, if we log out and log back in as an existing user who's already a seller, we will see that the header navigation bar looks a bit different. In particular, the header navigation bar for a seller also has my auctions and the create auction options in the header. This is how users have different options and privileges on our platform, depending on being a buyer or a seller. Now let's look at the second requirement. Sellers can create auctions for particular items, setting suitable conditions and features of the items, including the item description, categorization, starting price, reserve price, and end date. We are still logged in as Max, who is a seller. For this, let's click on the Create Auction inside this seller's header section. We can enter the details of the auction, like the name, the description, and other attributes. In our case, we will be creating an auction for a red chair, specifying its description, color, how long the auction will last for, the starting price, the reserve price, the pickup point, and the picture. Once we finish, we click on the Create Auction, thus submitting and populating our database in the Items and Auctions tables. Clicking the Create Auction button redirected us to the My Auctions section of the header, where we are now able to see our newly created auction for the red chair. This is how sellers can create auctions for particular items, setting suitable conditions and features for the items. So the requirement 3 is that buyers can search the system for particular kinds of items being auctioned and can browse and visually rearrange listings of items within categories. So for this, all users have a search tab for looking up the items they want. When they click on it, a user can search for a particular name, typing in the search bar. Let's try and search for the red chair that we have just created. If we type in chair into the search bar, we can see that 3 chairs come up in the results. The user can also has the option to filter the search results. So in order to find our red chair, for example, we can try specifying the color to red and hitting refine search. Now, the only result that we get is the desired red chair that we were looking for. So this is how users can search the system for particular items. Additionally, users can rearrange the results by the sorting criteria they want, alphabetically, by time left, or by highest and lowest price. For example, let's try and search for all items in the bedroom category and visually rearrange them in alphabetic order. This seems to work as expected. Now, let's try to rearrange the same items in the bedroom category by highest price first. This works as expected as well. This is how buyers can visually rearrange listings of items. This brings us to requirement 4. Buyers can bid for items and see the bids other users make as they are received. The system will manage the auction until the set end time and award the item to the highest bidder. The system should confirm to both the winner and the seller of the auction's outcome. So for this, let's say the user liked this unscented candle from the homepage. When we click on it, we can see the post of this item with all its details. The buyer can see that the current highest bid for the candle is £91. Moreover, the buyer can see all the previous bids made on this auction. The highest bid shown to the seller is refreshed every 3 seconds, so if someone else makes a higher bid now, the user will be able to see it some seconds later without having to refresh his own page. If the user wants to participate in this auction, he could enter his bid. If he enters a lower bid than the current highest bid, then the system will display an error message. If the user enters a valid new bid, the system will accept it and save it. In this moment, the system will also send out an email to the previous highest bidder, notifying him or her that they are outbid. Now, if we go to the My Bids section of the page header, we'll see all of the bids on all the auctions this user has made. There, in the Live Auctions section, we can see the candle that we have just bid on, telling us that with our bid of £95, we are currently the highest bidder. The system is also constantly checking if any auction has reached its set end time. We use the Windows Task Scheduler to run updater.php every 10 to 15 minutes. The idea is that the users are allowed to make bids on the item as long as the auction is live. However, immediately after the auction expires, the system stops allowing new bids to be made for this item. The input area turns gray. Then, in the nearest task scheduler cycle, the system checks for finished auctions and will then send out two emails to the winner of the auction, confirming that the item is awarded to him, and to the creator of the auction, saying that his item has been sold. This is how the system confirms to both the winner and the seller of the auction's outcome, as well as manages the auction until the set end time and awards the item to the highest bidder. So this brings us to requirement 5. Buyers can watch auctions on items and receive emailed updates on bids on those items, including notifications when they are outbid. Just for variety, let's log in as a different user to show this requirement. So let's say Pasha Korlev looks at this alarm clock and decides to bid on it. He makes the bid, goes back to the home page, and looks at this armchair, which he also finds nice, but he's not ready to make the bid yet. He's just interested in this auction and he wants to add it to his watch list. To indicate his interest, the user can simply click on the little star icon next to the item name. After the star is clicked, the user will now be getting email notifications whenever someone else bids on this item. To see how this works, we can now log out and log back in with a different user's credentials. So now that we're logged in as Max, Max decides to bid both on the alarm clock and the armchair. So he bids 105 on the alarm clock, and he decides to bid 130 on the armchair. So when he does that, two emails to user Pasha Korolev are triggered. One of them notifies that he has been outbid for the alarm clock. The other one notifies him that another bid has occurred for the armchair that he indicated that he was interested in. If someone is both interested in an item and outbid in that auction, they would only receive one email notifying them that they have been outbid. This is how buyers can watch auctions on items and receive email updates on bids on those items, including notifications when they are outbid. So this finally brings us to requirement 6. Buyers can receive recommendations for items to bid on based on collaborative filtering. To show how we incorporated this, let's log in with the user that we created at the very start. You can see that for this user, named Hanki, in the What We Recommend section of the homepage, no auctions are recommended. This happens because a user only receives recommendations after he has made at least one bid, and up to 6 recommendations are shown. Let's make him bid on a random item, for example, the body mirror. After a bid is made, the system will look at all the other users who have also bid on the body mirror and label them as similar profiles to Henki. After this, we will count the number of common bids that Henki has with each of these users and use that to order them from most common profile to least common profile. After the sorting is made, the system will take the most common user and look at the other items that he has bid on, but only those which Henki has not, and recommend them to Henki. If this most common user has less than 6 other bids, the system will go and look for other bids made by the next most common user, and recommend them to Henki as well. The system does this until there are 6 recommendations shown. It is also important to know that the system does no duplicate auctions shown, and only displays those that are still live. We have also added a few extra features for the website to have more realistic performance. For example, the My Auctions and My Bids pages automatically distinguish between live auctions and finished auctions based on the current timestamp. In addition, if a user goes to view his profile, we are giving him the option to change their status from buyer to seller and vice versa, provided that he or she has no current live auctions. Finally, if a user forgets his password, then they can click on the forgot password, put down their email, and if an account exists with that email, the password will be sent to that email.